So, ladies and gentlemen, today you are all welcome to our real-life application. We've done the two variable case. We've done the graphical solution, the simultaneous equation solution. We've applied the Excel to that same data set. And so we are ready to go beyond that. And the next thing we are going to do now is to look at real-life situations. Real life is more complex than two variable situations. What I'm going to do now is to take a typical example of a data set. And then we are going to formulate the data set together. After formulation, we will do it in Excel together. And then we will solve it. And then we'll ask questions. And anytime we've got an Excel, there are several questions, over 13 questions that we can ask ourselves. And we'll go through that right here, right now. Okay? So let's start. Ama Beniwado is an investor, an individual investor. And this woman has $70,000 to divide among several investments. The alternative investments are as follows. You have municipal bonds represented by MB, and the interest rate or the return, annual return on it is 8.5%. So that's the interest rate. AMA is also supposed to invest in certificates of deposit, CDs, with a 5% return. Treasury bills is TD, with a 6.5% return. And a growth stock fund, which is GS, with a 13% interest rate. Now, the investments are all evaluated after 1 year. But each investment has a different perceived risks. In risk analysis, you have the higher the return, the higher the risk, the higher the risk, the higher the return. So it is advisable to diversify the portfolio because you can't put all your eggs in one basket of municipal bonds or one basket of growth stock. AMA want to simply know how much to invest in each alternative in order to maximize the return. In order to maximize the return. Now, the following guidelines have been established. So that if AMA were to follow these guidelines, she will be able to diversify the portfolio of investment and then lessen the risks associated with the first one is that no more than 20% of the total investment should be in municipal bonds. The second is that the amount invested in certificate of deposit, CDs, should not exceed the amount invested in the other three alternatives. And those other three alternatives are the municipal bonds, the treasury bills, the growth stock fund. Next thing, and these are all the restrictions in there, at least 30% of the investment should be in treasury bills and certificate of deposit. And in order to be safe, more should be invested in certificate of deposit and treasury bills than in municipal bonds by a ratio of at least 1.2 to 1. The ratio of at least 1.2 to 1. The final constraint is that AMA wants to invest the entire $70,000. So the first thing we want to note is this. What are the decision variables? What are the decision variables? Okay, so you want to note that. Okay, look at the storyline and then tell me what are the decision variables. What are they? And remember that anytime you are writing what the decision variables are, you have to always note that you always start with let X1 be this, X2 be that, X3 be that, X4 be that, X5 be that, X6 be that, depending on the number of decision variables that we have. Now, in this context, how many decision variables do you think we have here? Just type the answer for me. How many decision variables do we have here? There's no question about that. Okay, that one is a very easy question. How many decision variables are there? Okay, very good. 4. So now this is how you're going to write the equation. Okay, you say that let x, to be honest, there's one way you can write this. You can say let x1 be the amount invested in municipal bonds. X2 be the amount invested in. But then in order to write all of them that way, you can make it simple, especially when there are many like that. So you can make it simple and say let xi, okay, comma, where I being equal to 1 all the way to 4. So let xi be the amount, let xi be the amount invested. Let xi be the amount invested in each of the 4 investment opportunities. In each of the 4 investment opportunities. So that one, it saves you the trouble. Or you can say let x1 be the amount invested in municipal bonds. And just to write that. Be writing these things down because it helps you. It helps you to know practically. Amount invested. You see, it's not the rate, but the amount. Okay. The amount invested in municipal bonds. Let x2 be the amount invested in certificates of deposits, and then on and on and on and on. You can have that. That is how you identify the decision variables. So the decision variables are the amount you put into the, which we don't know yet. Remember, we don't know the amount that we put into each one yet. We don't know, because the question was very clear. The question was saying that the woman want to know how much to invest. Okay. Just let me take you back to the question. Then you can appreciate it. It says that Amma wants to know how much to invest in each. Now, how much to invest here means that you don't know how much you put into it, but you want to maximize the return. Okay. So in this context, what is the decision variable? And what is the goal of the decision? What is the Z variable? What is objective function? And what is our goal as far as the objective function is concerned? Who can tell me? What is objective function? And what is our goal as far as this objective function is concerned? What is objective function, first of all? Okay, is objective function going to be cost? Is it going to be profit? Is it going to be revenue? What is objective function? Who can tell me? What is objective function? Okay, so let me see the one that is typed. Okay, Precious says it's profit, is not profit. So let's get it clear. Okay, it's not profit. So what is it? Amana. Okay, what is the objective function? Yes, Amana.
The revenue.
Revenue is not revenue. What is the objective function? If you look at the storyline, you will get it exactly what it is. Okay? And I can see some of you writing the correct answers there. The correct answer is the investment, the total return. Okay? Investment returns. That is investment returns, or the returns on the investment. So that is so it's not all the time it's going to be profit. It's not all the time it's going to be revenue or profit or something like that. No. Sometimes it is going to be audience. Sometimes it's going to be, people. Sometimes it's going to be exposure. Sometimes it's going to be, investment return, like we have here. So, and what are we going to do with that investment return? We are going to maximize it. That one was clear from the question. We're going to maximize it. So you're going to type your Z max. Okay, that's how you're going to start with. Type your Z max here, equal to, and then you take the decision variables and you're going to multiply those decision variables by what? Who can tell me? You're going to multiply the decision variables by what? By what? Is it by this or by that? What are we going to multiply the decision variables with? Kwame, do you have something to for us? What are you going to multiply the decision variables with? Let me see whether somebody has written something. Exactly, McClare. The answer is by the rate of return. By the interest rate, you might say.
Yeah, the rate.
Good. The rates, the interest rate. And so you're going to take each interest rate, and the mistake one might make, if I should tell you all to do it, some of you might make it the mistaken one. I know if I should give you the answer, some of you are going to say, oh, I wouldn't have done it that way. But you would. You would. Believe me, you would. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you are writing the interest rate, the temptation is this. Watch it. The temptation is that you are going to write 8.5% X1 plus, and then on and on and on and on. Now, that wouldn't be the right way of writing them. Rather, it's supposed to be 0.085. Okay, that one is the best way. Okay. It's going to be 0.085. Okay, X1. Then you include the other one. The second one was the CDs, which was 5. So you do 0.05 X2. The third one, which was in the story, was 6.5% and then 13%, if I remember. So it becomes 0.065 X3 plus 13, so 0.13 X4. Okay. So that is how you formulate the objective function. This is our objective function, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we formulated, ladies and gentlemen. And now we are going to incorporate the constraints. So you bring your subject to. Okay. If at any point you are lost, let me know. Okay. Okay. Let me know. Okay. So you bring your subject to. Now let's go back to the storyline and see the first subject to that was given to us. The constraints that were given were in the form of the diversification of the portfolio that was given. Okay, so the first one, some of them will be related to the portfolio itself or the risks. The first one says no more than 20% of the total investment should be in municipal. Now, before you can appreciate this, I need to take you back to these certain words: no more than, above, below, at least, not younger than, not taller than, okay? Because those words can be a little bit confusing. So I just want to take you back to some bit of English. This is objective function, by the way. So look at these symbols. Look at this symbol. They are English symbols, all right? But look at this symbol. The symbol of the first one that I've highlighted here, that symbol, what is that? What is the name of this symbol? It's less than. Very good. It's less than or equal to. It's less than or equal to. Now, what is that second symbol? Is greater than or equal to? What is the third symbol? Is greater than. Sorry, the second symbol is greater than, then this one is greater than or equal to. And then finally, this one there is less than. This one there is equal to. And finally, this last symbol is not equal to. So this is how we know it. But in English, you got to be able to assign some English phrases to these symbols. So let's take the first one. When I'm putting my cursor here, what I want you to do is to tell me which symbol have I highlighted. And of course, the first one is the easiest because I've highlighted greater than. And the symbol for that is what? Greater than. So that one is no problem at all. What symbol have I highlighted here? What symbol have I highlighted today? Okay. Who can tell me that? Who can tell me that? Just type the answer there. Let me see. What symbol have I highlighted there? Of course, you can say it and you can also type it. So what symbol is that? What symbol is that? Excellent. That is not equal to. The symbol itself is it, not equal to. Okay. All right, let's move on. What symbol is below? What symbol is below? What symbol is that? Below. Below. Just type some. When your colleagues are doing it, okay, type some. And that symbol is less than. Okay. That symbol is less than. Okay. What symbol do we have which is beyond? Beyond. Beyond. What symbol is that? Okay, let me see some of the answers. Excellent. Precious. You said greater than, and that is a correct answer. Now, be careful with some of these ones I'm about to give you. What symbol is not fewer than? Not fewer than. Now, in order to best understand that, you have to deal with the fewer than. Put a symbol for fewer than that. Then ask yourself, what is the opposite of that symbol? What is the opposite of that symbol I just put down? That opposite is the not. And so that gives you the not fewer than. So what is fewer than? Its opposite is what? And that is a symbol. So what is not fewer than? Not fewer than. Not fewer than. Not fewer than. Now, many of you are writing greater than, and that is wrong. Not fewer than is not greater than. The opposite of greater than is not less than. Opposite of greater than is less or equal to. Mathematically and statistically speaking, that is it. And so not fewer than is not greater than, but rather it is greater or equal to. That's it. It's supposed to be greater or equal to. So please note, if you wrote down fewer than, that would be less than. Fewer than will be less than. And so what is the opposite of less than? Well, that's it. Greater or equal to. Greater or equal to. Opposite of less than is greater or equal to. Now let's move on. What symbol is the same as? The same as. What symbol is that? The same as. The same as. That one is simple. Equal to. Okay. Now let's go to this one. What is not above? Not above. Not above. Sometimes you can use the symbol on your computer. What is not above? Not above. You will be making the same mistake if you don't analyze what I told you. Not above. It's not less than. It's less or equal to. If you don't take care, you'll be making these grammatical mistakes. Not above. Deal with above. What is above? Above is greater than. So what is the opposite of greater than? Opposite of greater than is the not above. And that is less or equal to. Don't do lottery. Understand what I'm telling you. Don't handle it not. Handle the word above first. And then take its opposite as the answer. But if you go straight to handle the not, you will not get it correct. What is better than? What is better than? That one is simple. What is better than? Better than. Better than. Okay, that one is greater than. No question about that. What is worse than? Worse than. Worse than. Worse than. That is less than. Very good. Precious, you're doing great. What is at least? Be careful here. What is at least? This is not lottery. What is at least? You either know it or you don't. You're following the type. Okay. At least is greater or equal to. That is at least. Greater or equal to. What is at most? That one is simple. What is at most? At most is less or equal to. Very good, very good, very good. Amount. Okay. At most is less or equal to. Now be careful with this one. What is not at least? I've shown you how to deal with a not. Deal with the word first before you deal with the not. What is not at least? What is not at least? What is not at least? Not at least. Greater or equal to is wrong. What is not at least? Less than or equal to is wrong. What is not at least? Deal with the at least and put it down. And then ask yourself, what is the opposite of that at least? At least is what? We just dealt with at least and we said is what? Greater or equal to. So what is the opposite of that? Less than. Less than. So if you don't deal with it that way, you will miss it all the time. Okay. Now let's look at the next one. What is not younger than? Not younger than. Remember to forget the not and deal with the younger than first. And then ask yourself the opposite. What is not younger than now? What is not younger than? Not younger than. Now, first of all, let me just write some few things here. Younger than is what? Okay. Younger than is less than. That is younger than, less than. Okay, so what is the opposite of this less than? It is greater or equal to. And so not younger than is greater or equal to. If you analyze it like that, you will always, you see, McLean made a mistake, Stephen made a mistake again. They're all writing greater than. And the reason is because they are not dealing with the younger than first. What is above? What is above? Above is greater than. Okay, above is greater than. So that one is fine. What is not different from? Forget about the not. Forget about the not. Forget about the not. Deal with the different from. What is different from? Different from is not equal to. All right. Different from is not equal to. Okay, so the not is the opposite. What is the opposite of not equal to? Equal to. Equal to. Finally, what is differs from? Differs from. Differs from. Differs from. Differs from. What is differs from? Differs from. And that is not equal to. That is not equal to. Good. Steven, well done. Okay. So that is how you got to address each one of these situations in here. So with that in mind, let's go back to the storyline. Let's go back to the storyline. Okay, with that in mind, we are told about some few things here. We are told the first one is that no more than 20% of the investment should be in municipal bonds. No more than 20% of the investment should be in municipal bonds. Now, I'm going to go back to my storyline here, and then we can use the whiteboard. First thing you need to understand is the word no more than. No more than. What symbol is that? What symbol is no more than? You can raise your hand. You are sure of the symbol. What symbol is no more than? Okay. Let me see whether Eunice, you can tell us. Eunice, what is no more than?
Less than or equal to.
Less than or equal to. Very good. Okay. So that is no more than. So now that we know that that's less than or equal to, you write less or equal to like this. Okay. And then you put it down. Okay. Less or equal to, no more than. Now the question says no more than 20% of the total investment should be in municipal bonds. 20% of the total investment should be in municipal bonds. Now, do we know the total investment? Yes. We know that the total investment is $70,000. We know that. Now, we need to calculate 20% of that. 20% of that total investment. We need to put it down because that we can calculate. So what is 20% of 70,000? Okay, so, and it says that 20% off means times 70,000. Okay, 20% of 70,000, that gives you what? That gives you 14,000. Somebody just cracked the answer. So beautiful. Precious. Well done. That is 14,000. 14,000. So this is the amount. Now it says that no more than this should be in municipal bonds. Now municipal bonds was represented by what? Okay. That was the first one. MB, municipal bonds. Let me just remind you. Municipal bonds is the first one. Certificate of deposit, CDs, is the second one. Okay. Treasury bills, TB, is the third one. Gross stock fund is GS. Okay. Those were the situations. So we are told that no more than 20% of that should be in municipal bonds. So municipal bonds, which is X1 here, should be less or equal to that 14,000. It should be less or equal to 20% of the 70,000. So the first formulation is X1 is less or equal to 14,000. That is the first constraint. You have to take it one by one. You have to relax it one by one. If you are not clear, you indicate that element. Okay, now let's go to the next concentrated words. Okay. The next one is saying that, where is that? The next sentence is saying that, okay, let me show that on your screen so that you can see. It says that the amount invested in certificates of deposit should not exceed the amount invested in the other three investments. Now, take your time. Don't rush. The amount invested, as it stands now, we don't know the amount invested in any alternative, anything. So that's why we represent them with an X. So the amount invested in certificate of deposit. Certificate of deposit is represented by what? If you can remember. Okay. Certificate of deposit is represented by what? Let me see the answers written. Okay. Is represented by X2, Janet. That's good. So now have that in mind. What symbol are we dealing with here? What symbolic sign do we have being shown here? Should not exceed. What symbol is that? What symbol is that? Because once you're able to crack that symbol, you get it. Okay. Should not exceed, that is what? Less or equal to. All of you are right. Less or equal to. So you must have that less or equal to symbol in your mind. Okay, so let's go back. And then, so you have less than or equal to. You write that down. Okay, less than. Let me just delete this so that I can use a different way to document this for you. Less than or equal to. Now, the question, so, and we know that it is X2, okay, X2, which is certificate of deposit. So X2 should be less or equal to the other three investments. Let me take you back to appreciate it, okay. It says should not exceed or should be less than or equal to the amount invested in the other three alternatives. How do you write amount invested in the other three alternatives? How do you write that? The amount invested in the other three alternatives. How do you write that? How do you document that? Who can tell us? You can tell us by either typing or saying it. The amount invested in the other three alternatives. How do you write that? Okay. The amount invested in the other three alternatives. Excellent. McClare did very well. McClare has just demonstrated. So the other three alternatives are X1. Okay. Yeah, X1. So you write X1 plus, it's not common, X3 plus, okay, X1, X3 plus X4. So this is how it's supposed to be. So X2 should be less than all of them combined. Okay. Now, so this is how, this is what I mean by the amount invested in the other three alternatives. This is a combined amount we are talking about. However, the way this thing looks is a little bit not beautiful. Because remember, all the time you want the decision variables to be on the left-hand side. So it's nice to move those X1, X3, X4 to the left-hand side of the equation and then rearrange them in a beautiful fashion. Let X1 come first. So if you should move this X1 to the left-hand side, it becomes minus, right? If you move the X3, it becomes minus, right? If you move the x4, it becomes minus, right? And so we are going to have minus x1 plus x2. x2 is already there, so that's why it's plus. Then minus x3, then minus x4, then less or equal to 0 because you are left with nothing there. So that the numbers are on the right-hand side and the letters or the decision variables are on the left-hand side. What a way to really crack this code. Now let's go and look at the next constraint, okay? The next constraint. Okay, so the next constraint says at least 30% of the investment. You see, the way I'm reading it in such a way that you think through some keywords. And that's the same thing you want to be doing when you are under examination. At least 30% of the investment, 30% of the investment, 30% of the investment should be in treasury bills. Treasury bills is X3 and certificate of deposit, that is X2. So at least 30% of the investment should be in treasury bills and certificate. Who can formulate that for us? Okay, who can formulate that? Let's go to the next page. Who can formulate that command beautifully for us? Because if you can do that on your own, it means you are good to go. So the first thing you want to do is to calculate 30% of the investment and then deal with CDs and then the other one. Who can take us to do that? So first, let's calculate 30% of the investment. Okay, that's the first thing you want to do. 30%. Okay, so 30% of 70,000, the investment. And what is that? If you calculate 30% of the investment, you're going to get 21,000. Okay, 30% of the investment is 21,000. So now, you go to your story. Remember, it says that at least 30% of the investment should be put into treasury bills and certificate of deposit. Now, treasury bills, okay, let me just go back here so that I can appreciate it. Treasury bills is X3. Okay, that's here. Certificate of deposit is X2. Okay. And it says 30% of the investment should go into it. That means we are going to add them. That's what it means. We're going to combine them. Okay, let me see whether somebody. So somebody wrote, Precious, your answer is not correct. Janet, that's fine. Stephen, that is not how it's supposed to be. Because if you remember, because we know the exact amount, we need to calculate that. That is what I've done. So the way it's supposed to be is that that certificate of deposit is X2. Okay. That treasury bills is X3. I add them. X2, X3. Okay. And then go back to the keyword. The word is at least. At least is what symbol? Greater or equal to. It says at least 30% of the investment. So that should be greater or equal to. You've already calculated the 21,000. So it should be greater or equal to $21,000. So that is how it is. This is how you got to formulate it. Don't worry, the formulation comes with skills. It comes with experience, comes with time. As time progresses, you will see that your formulation, but some of you are trying, okay? Units are winning, so, okay, you seem to have really cracked the code. So this is how you do the third formulation. Now already this one is on the right-hand side. The letters are on the left-hand side, so there's no need to rearrange anything anymore. You just have to continue and get the other formulations. Okay, let's go to the next formulation. Probably I call it the last formulation. To be safe, this is the formulation, the last constraint. More should be invested in certificate of deposit and treasury bills. Pause. Don't go further. Certificate of deposit and means plus. So what is your certificate of deposit? Is represented by what? X2. What is your treasury bills? X3. And means add them. So that's the first thing you want to do first. Okay. So let's go and write that down. Okay. Before we come and look at the other accoutrement. So x2 plus x3. Put it down, put it down, put it down. Let's go to the storyline. More should be invested in blah, blah, blah than in municipal bonds and growth stock. Watch it. Another one. Municipal bonds is what? X1. Growth stock is what? X2. What am I supposed to do with them? What am I supposed to do with them? What am I going to do with this municipal bonds and the growth stock? Looking at the storyline, what am I going to do with them? If you look at the way I formulated the certificate of deposits and the treasury bills, okay, which I formulated them as X1, X2 plus X3, what do you think I'm going to do to municipal bonds and growth stock? The same thing, okay? The same thing, but I'm going to add them. I'm going to add them. But let me put that addition somewhere because we don't know the connection. X1 plus X4. Okay, so we know that we're going to add them. And now go to the storyline. Go to the story. It says that more should be invested in CDs and TDs than in municipal bonds and growth stock by a ratio. Ow, now we got a picture. By a ratio. What does the symbol ratio means? Ratio means that something should be divided by something, isn't it? That's a ratio. So it means that, and if you look at the sentence which came first, the certificate of deposit and the treasury bills should therefore be divided by the municipal bonds and the growth stock, like this. Excellent. Somebody is cracking the code even beautifully ahead of time before we come to the real deal. So it means that this one should be divided by the X1 plus the X4. But then there's another ratio that has been given to us. Watch the ratio. It says that by a ratio of at least 1.2 to 1. So how do you write 1.2 to 1? 1.2 to 1 is 1.2 over 1. Okay. So let me go back and then put on this right hand side 1.2 over 1. So I'll come here, I'll put 1.2 divided by 1. What symbol should come in between them? Who can tell me? What symbol should come in between them? Looking at the story packaging. What symbol? Let me see. Ebenezer says greater than. That is not correct, Ebenezer. Let's go back to the storyline. Look at the sentence. Okay. It says by a ratio of at least 1.2 to 1. So what symbol is that? What symbol is at least? Greater or equal to? You understand why I took you through those symbolisms? Okay. That's why I took you through those symbolisms. So that becomes greater or equal to. So here, you're going to have greater or equal to. Finished. Wow, what a mathematical formulation. Okay, that is how it's supposed to be. But again, this is a ratio, and we are dealing with a linear programming, so it's good to convert everything to line by cross multiplying and then moving all the like terms to the left-hand side. Now, when you cross multiply, what it means is that you're going to have something like this. Okay. That's when you cross multiply. Oops. When you cross multiply, you're going to have this one multiplying this and that one multiplying this. Okay. So let's do this one multiplying this. That gives you x2 plus x3. When they multiply 1, you get the same thing. Then you have greater or equal to 1.2 multiply the x1, and then 1.2 will multiply the x4. I've just expanded. So at this stage, I can group like terms by moving the right-hand side information to the left-hand side and be left with 0. So when I move it and I organize it beautifully, when I move this one here, it becomes minus. Okay, it becomes minus here. So I have minus 1.2x1, then minus, plus x2, and I'll pick what is already here, plus x2, plus x3, then you move the 1.2 x4, this one here, you move it to the left-hand side. So that becomes minus 1.2 x4. Then you have your greater than or equal to 0. 0 because there's nothing there. Greater than or equal to because it was at least. So you can see that in this formulation, some of them will be at least, some of them will be at most. Okay. Now, the formulation might look a little bit higgledy-piggledy, it might look a little bit strange, but look, we brought ourselves here and we've cracked it already. We've done it. Okay. Now let's go to the last constraint. It's an interesting constraint, but if you don't take it, you miss it. I might want to invest everything. Who can tell me how this formulation has to be? I want to invest everything, the entire amount. I want to invest everything. How would you have formulated that? If I should add all my investment, the amount I invested, they have to be equal to this 70,000 because I invested everything. How would that happen? Let's see. Somebody, Precious says X5 is 70. There's no X5, first of all. The investment alternatives were X1 to X4. There was no X5. So Michael cracked the code beautifully. X1 plus X2 plus X3, okay, is equal to what? Is equal to 70,000. So that's how it's supposed to be. Okay? It's supposed to be exactly that. So now this is how it's supposed to be. Okay? So it's supposed to be the fact that if I should add all of them, okay, X1 plus X2 plus X3 plus X4, all of them should be equal to 70,000. This is that last constraint. And all of you got it. So that's how it's supposed to be. It shouldn't be greater or equal to 70,000. It should be 70,000. Now, how do we know? It says entire. So it should be all of it. Okay. And he can't say that he's investing more than he has. Because once you make it greater or equal to, what you are trying to say is that the amount he's going to invest, the total amount of X1, X2, X3, X4, that he's going to invest can even be more than 70,000, which is not possible. Because how can you invest more than you have? You have $70,000 available to invest. You cannot invest more than the 70,000. Okay. We've got one last constraint, which is our non-negativity constraint. Of course, okay, we'll do that. So finally, you can add your non-negativity constraint. So this constraint was X1 plus X2 plus X3 plus X4, okay, equal to 70,000. And then finally, X1, comma, X2, comma, X3, comma, X4, okay, greater than or equal to 0. That's a non-negativity constraint. Once you do that, then you can now smile because you know that you've done the right thing. And let me show you all of these formulations in the analysis that we did. This is our final formulation. Okay, this is a final formulation. Of course, the non-negativity constraint is down here, so just note. If you look at this formulation here, it looks very complex, but see, it's simple because we did it. We know where this is coming from. Now we can put this thing in Excel. So let's go to Excel quickly and then drop it into Excel. So open your Excel and work along with me. Open your Excel and work along with me.